Hello, this is Ken Merrill with the National Association of Black and White Men Together. Today's topic is on racial wealth and its inequality, and we'll talk about the progress towards racial equality in the United States. This is really based on changes in racial attitude across times. And however, the rigid belief that progress is automatic lends itself to the denial of the persistence of racial inequality in the funding gaps between public schools serving white students versus those serving children of color. The disproportionate death and hospitalization rate during the COVID-19 pandemic in communities of color and the black and white wealth gap are another example of inequality. In one study by Yale professor Michael Krokas, he asked a sample of 1,000 American adults that represented the U.S. in terms of race, religion, and region and income to estimate the average wealth of black families compared with white families, and that was in 1963. Respondents thought that for every $100 in wealth held by white families, black families had $50 on average, in reality, according to the federal data at that time. And of course, the median black family only had $6 in wealth for every $100 held by white families. Moving on to 2016, we find that the feds estimated that for every $100 held by white families, black families had $90 on average. But actually, black families in 2016 held $11 for every $100 held by white families. Psychologists refer to this kind of broad bias in perception as motivated cognition. That is, most Americans want to live in a society that is more racially equal, and so they engage in mental activities that ignore or discount or downplay contradictory evidence to maintain coherence between belief and reality. Efforts to ban the teaching of America's violent and unjust racial history in public schools are another form of motivated cognition. Likewise, the perception of Asian Americans as high-achieving leads to a significant underestimation of the wealth gap between Asian and white Americans, which downplays the economic inequality that burdens some Asian American communities. The survey suggests a profound and possibly willful ignorance about the persistence of racial inequality amongst those most likely to benefit from it. When progress towards equality is seen as inevitable, incentives or equitable political actions are thus low. So, how do we cut through motivating cognition on racial inequality? So, a recent study decided to see whether stories of data or data itself would be more effective in helping people grasp the magnitude of current black-white wealth inequality. First, they used the perspective of a single black family contending with significant challenges in their housing, financial wealth, and educational circumstances. Then, they discussed black-white inequality through data in the domains of housing, wealth, and education. Finally, a third version combined the two approaches. They found that data, rather than a story, gave more accurate estimates of the magnitude of current black-white wealth inequality, increased acknowledgement of systemic white advantage in society, and this was the same for both white respondents and respondents of color. This study allowed respondents to learn and speak freely about racial inequality, made it easier for the participants to absorb information about the magnitude of racial inequality in society. The story version seemed to be focusing too narrowly on one case and heightened thoughts about what that particular family could do to overcome bias. Progress towards racial equality is possible, but not automatic. Nevertheless, awareness and education are necessary precursors to action, whether that involves school board decisions, federal protection of voting rights, or equity-focused employment programs. Unless Americans understand and acknowledge inequality as a fact, we won't be able to build that political consensus needed for real change. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to all of the platforms we're involved with and go to our website, nabwmt.org. Thanks a lot.